So if you're ready, we're all set over here, and go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I'm going to introduce myself and introduce you. So my name is Samantha Rich. I'm here with Greg Doucette at D.H. Hill Library. Today is 5th of October, 2011. And I want to start by saying thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
So before we begin talking about your time at State, we'd like to talk to you about where you're originally from.
Okay, well, I was born in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And actually, that was where my mom was at college at the time. Pretty much my entire life, I grew up in Virginia Beach. And I ended up coming down here because my junior year of high school, NC State had something called the SITE program, which is a Student Introduction to Engineering. And they basically invited a bunch of high schoolers, and I came down and said, hey, I love it. So this is where I ended up applying.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I'm the oldest of three. My brother I'm 30 now, so my brother would be 25, and my sister is 23.
I was going to ask you what factors influenced your decision to attend NC State, but...
It was mostly, well, it was predominantly cost, and then also the SITE program. I was fairly good in high school, which is ironic in light of my collegiate education. And I was looking at MIT in Massachusetts for computer engineering, UVA in Virginia for political science, and then NC State for computer engineering. And MIT was pretty much out of the question because, one, it's up north, I hate the cold. But even back in 1998, it was more expensive than NC State is today, like 12 years later. So kind of marinate on that, do the math. But even UVA, paying in-state tuition, the total cost of attendance, tuition fees, housing, books, would actually have been more expensive for me to stay in-state as a Virginia resident than it was for me to go out of state here because I was able to get scholarships from the school, and then the General Assembly had a grant for geographic diversity, I think they called it. So you actually got money if you were out of state to come here. So the first year, this was actually the cheaper option. So that was like already kind of the angle we were going at, and then I came down here for that summer and just really loved it and said, hey, this is where I want to go.
Did you live on campus?
I did. I lived here all 6 years, both before and after dropping out. My first 2 years I was in Owen Hall. Then the next year I was in Watauga. 2 years after that I was in Wolf Village, and then the year after that I was in East King Village. So I stayed on campus the entire time.
Can you describe what it was like to live on campus?
It was interesting. Now, I started back in 1998, so back then Owen Hall didn't have air conditioning. So when we moved to campus, moving day, everyone's moving in. That was kind of crazy in itself, but there's no AC. And it's the middle of summer, so it's flipping hot. But as I was talking with folks that were also on my hall, Owen was segregated in the sense that you had first 3 floors were boys and then the top floor was for the girls. Talking to the other guys on my hall, I noticed the guy had an aluminum foil pan of water, and I'm like, what is that for? And he goes, oh, this is your AC. And I was like, what on earth are you talking about? We figured out that you could actually take the window and fold it down to kind of make it like a table where it would rest on the radiator, put 2 box fans in the window blowing in, put 2 by 2 sets, so 4 total aluminum foil pans filled with water, cut the fans on, and it actually cooled the room down a lot. So that was actually how I met a good chunk of people my first and second year, because I'm not terribly, I'm a little on the shy side when it comes to meeting new folks. So having the AC on the floor was just like the awesomest thing, because you had the windows open, the doors open, there's cold air blowing in, people are walking by going, where's the AC coming from? So it was an interesting experience.
What campus events or clubs did you participate in?
I was almost exclusively a student government guy. When I was here for orientation, we lived in Burgaw Hall. My grandparents had a hotel room, and there was some kind of play that they did in Tally, talking about what life was like on campus. So we were walking from Burgaw to Tally, and my grandparents were going regardless. I was determined to skip because there was this, before we had kind of the Kate's Crawl, all the people set up in the auditorium area of Witherspoon. So I snuck my way in and went to this little student organization area, thinking I was going to join College Republicans, because I was a political activist in high school. So that was my focus. Under no circumstances was I going to do student government. And as I'm walking around, I met Jenny Chang, who was the student body president at the time. And, I'm picking up stuff from the different tables, and she motions me over to the SG table. And I'm like, okay, well, what group are you with? She goes, I'm with student government. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be rude, but I just really have no interest in what y'all are doing. She goes, well, what do you think we do? And I gave some kind of idiotic response that in hindsight was really dumb. But she goes, okay, well, I'll cut you a deal. You don't have to join student government, but take this pamphlet for our Wolf Aids program, apply, and see what happens. So I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. End up leaving the room, and someone makes it a point to me. One of the other folks in my orientation group goes, oh, you realize that was the student body president? I'm like, no, I don't know who the student body president is or what they do. It's like, yeah, that's the president of the whole campus. I'm like, okay, I really sounded like an idiot. But what ended up happening, so that was orientation. We move in, I apply to the Wolf Aids program. They end up accepting me as one of their members. Go to a meeting, and after that meeting, I come back, and my RA, a guy named Brian Overington, was actually a student senator. And as I'm coming back from Wolf Aids, he was coming back from Senate. He was ranting and raving about something they had voted on that night. And I'm intrigued. I'm like, this is politics. This is what I did in high school. And he explains to me what's going on. He goes, you really should think about trying to be one of the freshman senators. And back then, we had gotten rid of freshman elections. They voted for freshmen for a time. I guess turnout kind of fell off. And then for a long period of time, they appointed them. So I ended up getting appointed. And I was kind of hooked after that. I literally did student government just about every year I was at state. My freshman year as a student senator. I ran for Senate president as a freshman, which is idiotic in hindsight. Definitely lost, came in 3rd out of 3. Worked for the media sophomore year. Worked for the media when I came back in 2005. I called that my second sophomore year. Then was a student senator again, and then spent my last 2 years as president of the Student Senate.
What did you hope to gain from your involvement in student government?
I really had no idea. Like my involvement, I'm one of those folks that I hate being told that something can't be done, because I'm like, there's no reason why it can't be done. You just have to work harder to do it, or figure out a way to get people to agree to it. So really, when I joined the Senate, my sole purpose wasn't so much getting something for me, it was to help change the campus. If someone had an issue with campus, I wanted to be the voice of the people that would help make that happen. For example, I didn't realize, coming from my family background, I was really the first person in my family to, really attend college, because my mom was in it her first year, but then I was born, so she dropped out. So the first one in my family to really go to college, I didn't realize textbooks were so incredibly expensive. I thought, okay, I paid my tuition, my fees, my housing, I'm good for the semester. Oh no, I had, a couple $100s I had to shell out, and this was back in '98, So I was like, textbooks, outrageous. Why on earth are these so expensive? So I was going to be, the person pounding his hand on the table. I was going to fix textbook prices. And that was my mindset going in. In hindsight, I should have known better. But it was definitely, that's what got me in the door. So I can't complain about it.
Okay, following your first year as student senator, you campaigned for student senate president. Can you describe that?
I had to be the most arrogant freshman in NC State history. So when I was in elementary school, my parents made me skip the 4th grade. So I came to NC State at 17. I didn't turn 18 until the end of March of my freshman year. So when Technician did their profiles, I'm listed as being 17 years old. I was already a sophomore because of AP credits. So I thought I was hot stuff, and I really did not think it through at all whatsoever. I just thought, okay, I get the impression some people like me, some people hate me, but I'm sure I can convince people if they just listen to me long enough. I've got good ideas, and I'm obviously brilliant because I'm here at 17 and I'm already a sophomore. And that was essentially my campaign. My entire campaign was, I'm amazing, the Senate's stupid, vote for me. That was the gist of it, like, no lie. And I was convinced I was going to win. So when the election results come out, not only did and I'll talk before we even get to the election results, Technician did one of they asked different students who you're going to vote for. And a guy I never met said, hey, I'm going to vote for Greg Doucette. He has good ideas. That just reinforced in my mind, I'm getting through. People know me and like me. And then the results come in, and I'm not only dead last, I'm like way dead last. I think I got like 12% of the vote or something ridiculously small. I don't even know if it was that much. And I'm like, I was just stunned. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. I was just rejected by 27,000 students. And it was, again, in hindsight, I should have known better. There's no chance a freshman who sounds like a jerk is going to get elected to office. But it completely changed how I was as an individual, because up until that point, it was all excellence all the time. And now I've lost an election. I'm having issues with calculus academically. It just really shook my confidence in myself and forced me to kind of really grow up a little bit as a person. So